Hey guys, John V here from PhoneArena. It's the battle for the budget tablets. We have two devices on tap here today. We have the Google Nexus 7 and the Amazon Kindle Fire. Both are priced affordably at $200 outright for their starting cost. We know that the Amazon Kindle Fire has been reigning in the budget market for some time now when it was first released. It would set the pace for everything else out there, but now it has a competitor in the form of the Google Nexus 7. So we're going to find out how these two stack up against one another. Honestly, neither device really jumps out at us with an outstanding design, but if we had to choose, we'd pick the Google Nexus 7 mainly because it's a lot more comfortable to hold in the hand. But they're very similar. Overall shape and size, very similar to one another. They're both really thin, but the Google Nexus 7 is just a smidgen thinner, and it's also lighter in the hand. So as far as comfort, we definitely prefer the Google Nexus 7 just because it utilizes some curves around its edges. So it's a lot more natural when you hold in the hand, whereas on the Amazon Kindle Fire, it utilizes mostly straight edges, and it doesn't come off as comfortable compared to its rival here. We like their choice of materials, we like their construction, they're very similar, but in the end, we just have to hand it to Google Nexus 7 on this one. There's no question about it, the Google Nexus 7 has the sharper looking display between the two. First of all, they're both 7 inches in size, but Google's Nexus 7 benefits with the higher resolution WXGA, so that's 1280 by 800 versus 1024 by 600 on the Amazon Kindle Fire. It's most noticeable in the web browser, specifically when we look up close and personal. We could tell that the details on the Google Nexus 7 are far sharper than what's seen on the Amazon Kindle Fire. They're both IPS LCD panels, but their color reproductions are a little bit different. You tend to see cooler tones on the Google Nexus 7 and warmer tones on the Amazon Kindle Fire. So when you look at the color white, we tend to see a bluish tone with the Google Nexus 7 and some yellowish tones on the Amazon Kindle Fire. But either way, the Google Nexus 7 really stands out just because it boasts the better viewing angles, higher contrast, and on top of that, it doesn't distort as much versus what we see on the Amazon Kindle Fire. Even though these two lack rear cameras, the Google Nexus 7 has a slight advantage with a front-facing camera, so you could still do stuff like video chat. We like the dedicated power button on the Google Nexus 7 more than the Amazon Kindle Fire, mainly because it's raised a little bit more. They're both very tactile in the response, but in order to modify the volume on the Amazon Kindle Fire, it's all done in the software, so we definitely like it that we had the convenience of a volume control right there on the Google Nexus 7. On the bottom sides of both tablets, we find their 3.5mm headset jacks and micro USB ports for data and charging connectivity. In terms of internal speakers, the Google Nexus 7 has a single one right here with the grill on the back, whereas on the Amazon Kindle Fire, its speakers are located on its top edges, and you have left and right channels. Other similarities that these two tablets share is the fact that there's no access to their batteries, and on top of that there's no memory expansion, so you're limited to whatever you have. They both start off at 8 GB. So by now we're all familiar that the single best aspect about the Google Nexus 7 is the fact that it is running Android 4.1 Jelly Bean, the most up-to-date version of the platform, so it benefits with that. Whereas in contrast, the Amazon Kindle Fire is running a heavily customized Android 2.3 Gingerbread experience on there, so the two are just basically worlds apart. You get the latest and greatest on one hand, and on the other you have just some limited offerings, and it really shows in a variety of different aspects. First and foremost, there's a matter of personalization, and there's no question about it. The Google Nexus 7 hands down wins in this category with its wealth of widgets. You could personalize the home screens here, 5 different home screens to your liking, so there's a lot of customization with it. Whereas on the Amazon Kindle Fire, you basically have the usual set here, like this 3D carousel that displays some of the most recent applications that you've ran, and you have this bookshelf-like of icons for some recent applications. You can move them around, but that's pretty much the extent of what's offered on the Amazon Kindle Fire. Additionally, the notification system in play with the Google Nexus 7 is extraordinarily more advanced than what's on the Amazon Kindle Fire. It's usually in the top left corner, and you get some minimal stuff such as email notifications, and you're just able to view them. But with the Google Nexus 7, you have a little bit more functionality. It utilizes some gestures, so you could actually expand certain notifications to view what they are, and even some additional functionality like being able to share photos directly from the notifications panel. Of course, there are many advantages being a Google-made device, especially with Jelly Bean on board the Google Nexus 7. You just get a wealth of applications. You get the Android market, so you get the full fidelity of the ecosystem. Whereas on the Amazon Kindle Fire, if you want apps, you got to go through the Amazon App Store. It's very limited with its offerings. You get some of the popular stuff out there, but not quite as extensive as you'd find on Google Play. So if you really want to get the best out of the tablet experience, you're going to check out the Google Nexus 7 on this one. In terms of core organizer apps, the Google Nexus 7 has a wealth out of the box. So you get things like a calculator, you have a calendar, and even you have an address book here. So you have a lot of functionality. With the Amazon Kindle Fire, it's only limited to only a contacts application out of the box. You have to download other things like a calendar application or even a calculator one. Also, when it comes to emailing, again, the Google Nexus 7 has the great advantage of having all the benefits and features of the Gmail experience, and we definitely like the layout and presentation. You get that two-panel view, so it's extremely optimized for a tablet, whereas on the Amazon Kindle Fire, it's bare bones. It's basically like a smartphone experience. You get a single column view here, and that's pretty much it. Typing out messages on the Google Nexus 7 is a lot better than what's on the Amazon Kindle Fire. First and foremost, just the layout is spaced more. You could tell it's a larger layout with the Google Nexus 7. Both are fairly responsive in keeping up with our rate and input, and as far as landscape usage, we definitely prefer using, again, the Google Nexus 7 on this one, just because with the Amazon Kindle Fire, it just seems like it's a little bit more stretched out. Being the newer device and all, the Google Nexus 7 has the advantage of packing the more impressive processor inside of its body. It's powered by an NVIDIA Tegra 3 quad-core CPU with 1 GB of RAM, whereas on the Amazon Kindle Fire, it's powered by a 1 GHz dual-core TI OMAP 4 processor with 512 MB of RAM. Now you can tell with the Google Nexus 7, it's able to move pretty smoothly around the home screen, barely any slowdown or any lag, and same thing applies here on the Amazon Kindle Fire with its 3D carousel, so it's very nice and smooth. But on the Amazon Kindle Fire, when we scroll up and down, we do notice just a little bit of choppiness where you don't see that much on the Google Nexus 7. The other thing is just opening up applications, other basic tasks, opening up apps. It just seems like it's a little bit slower on the Amazon Kindle Fire. Again, the Google Nexus 7's processing prowess is very evident with web browsing, and experience is very different between the two. They managed to load up our page in almost the exact same time, so no issues as far as loading, but you could tell the movement already a lot smoother on the Google Nexus 7. You can notice just some jerkier tones and some choppiness found with the Amazon Kindle Fire. They're both very usable, but it's just more satisfying on the Google Nexus 7 just because of those fluid movements. You can tell here with pinch gestures, again, just some noticeable amounts of choppiness on the Amazon Kindle Fire. And on top of that, seeing that the Google Nexus 7 has the higher resolution, we can make out fine text a lot easier than on the Amazon Kindle Fire. At the first, their music player interfaces look very similar as we're playing something. The album cover is track information, but when it comes to browsing through albums or content, we definitely like the styling on the Google Nexus 7 just because it has that cool carousel 3D-like effect in play when you're playing a song here where it's just a standard column view here on the Amazon Kindle Fire. As far as the audio quality with the respective speakers, they're both pretty much on the same level. Good volume tones. They don't really crackle at the loudest volume setting, but we do like the fact that the Google Nexus 7 has some equalizer settings available right from within the application itself, so you can enhance its quality. So out of the box, the Amazon Kindle Fire doesn't support any of the videos that we have, so we have to download a third-party video player, the Meridian video player, so I could play this video here that's encoded in MPEG-4, 1920 by 1080 resolution. You can tell both devices are playing it very smoothly, barely any evidence of any lag or slowdown, and honestly, both are more than ideal for the situation. We don't really find one to be better than the other. Then again, you just get those slightly nicer looking colors with the Google Nexus 7, and doesn't distort when you look at various angles. Even more reason why the Google Nexus 7 has more functionality out of the box versus the Amazon Kindle Fire. You do get apps such as YouTube, and in Google's Maps, so you do get turn-by-turn directions, offering with the Google Nexus 7. That's not something that's available with the Amazon Kindle Fire. When it comes to Wi-Fi connectivity, we didn't have any issues as far as major fluctuations or even drop connections during our time testing out both tablets. Thankfully, both tablets offer exceptional battery life. If you happen to be a heavy user, power user, you don't have to have any worries, concerns, because you'll easily get by through a solid day without having to recharge either device. But between the two, we just noticed that the Google Nexus 7 offering just a little bit more battery at the end of the day, just because with the Amazon Kindle Fire, there is no automatic brightness settings, all manual. Seriously, folks, unless you're totally immersed in the Amazon ecosystem, there's no reason why you shouldn't get the Google Nexus 7 right now, even more when they're priced the same at $200 outright. With the Google Nexus 7, by far the better looking tablet, and also newer, so it's boasting newer hardware as well, like that NVIDIA Tegra 3 quad-core CPU. It flies very quickly, and on top of that, you get the rich fullness of the Android 4.1 Jelly Bean experience, and you know that seeing that this is a with Google device, you're gonna get treated to the latest and greatest. And on top of that, as far as pure functionality, you get it far more on the Google Nexus 7. It's very limited on the Amazon Kindle Fire. For example, you barely have any core organizer apps on board, and on top of that, you have the rich fullness of all the third-party apps available through Google Play on the Google Nexus 7. So if you'd like to learn more about both tablets, guys, you could check out our website, PhoneArena.com. This is John V. As always, thanks for watching.